What if I told you that one of the most misunderstood philosophers of all time holds the keys to unlocking not just deeper thinking, but a stronger, more virtuous life? Arthur Schopenhauer, often labeled as a pessimist, actually offers one of the most powerful frameworks for moral and intellectual growth in the modern world. While society chases noise, distractions, and shallow pleasures, Schopenhauer invites us into a world of clarity, depth, and purpose. In this video, we're diving into 5 powerful ideas from Schopenhauer that can elevate your mind and refine your character, no matter who you are or where you're starting from. These aren't abstract theories. They're tools you can use right now to rise above mediocrity, ego, and confusion. And trust me, points 4 and 5 will challenge everything you thought you knew about wisdom, compassion, and what it truly means. To live with moral strength. If you're ready to think deeper, live better, and become more than just a product of your time, stay with me. This might just change the way you see the world and yourself. First point, compassion as the foundation. Of ethics, Schopenhauer believed that real morality doesn't come from following rules or obeying social expectations. It comes from something far more primal and far more profound, compassion. He argued that at its core, morality is not about logic or duty, as Kant claimed. It's not about calculating what's right based on reason. Instead, it arises the moment you feel the suffering of another being as if it were your own. That identification, that deep, spontaneous empathy is what leads to genuinely moral action. Think about it. When you see a child fall and cry, you don't consult a moral code before rushing to help. You feel their pain in your own body. Your reaction is immediate, human, and sincere. That's the foundation of real ethics, not rules, but relational awareness. And modern science is finally catching up. Neuroscientists have discovered mirror neurons, special brain cells that fire both when you perform an action and when you see someone else perform it. These neurons explain why you wince when someone else gets hurt or tear up during an emotional scene in a movie. You are wired for compassion. Schopenhauer didn't need a lab to know that. Now, let's bring this down to earth. How do you use this insight? Shift from judgment to presence. The next time someone around you is struggling, whether it's a co-worker breaking under pressure, a homeless person on the street, or a friend withdrawing emotionally, pause. Don't analyze, don't moralize. Feel. Ask yourself, if I were in their position, what would I need? That shift unlocks compassionate action. Practice daily perspective taking. Before reacting to anyone's behavior, try this mental exercise. What might they be carrying that I can't see? It interrupts your ego and opens space for empathy. Over time, this rewires your responses. Volunteer in real-life settings of suffering. Schopenhauer believed we escape ego through direct exposure to others' pain. Working with people in crisis, whether in shelters, hospitals, or prisons, cuts through abstractions. It grounds your morality in experience, not theory. This kind of compassion isn't sentimental, it's transformational. It builds resilience, humility, and a profound connection to life beyond your personal bubble. Schopenhauer saw this clearly. We become truly moral, not by thinking better, but by feeling deeper. And in a world increasingly numbed by overstimulation, this may be the most radical act of all. Second point, the denial of the will as a path to liberation. For Schopenhauer, the root of human suffering is not the world itself, but our relentless, restless will. This will isn't just desire in the ordinary sense. It's the blind, irrational force within us that always wants more pleasure, more power, more approval, more control. And here's the catch. Even when we get what we want, the satisfaction is short-lived. The craving returns, again and again. Schopenhauer observed this cycle long before modern psychology gave it labels. He knew that chasing every desire leads not to happiness, but to exhaustion, and eventually, despair. So what's the way out? Not indulgence, not even balance, but the denial of the will, that is, consciously stepping away from the need to constantly fulfill desires. Not because life has no value, but because peace only comes when you stop letting your cravings run the show. It's a radical idea, but incredibly relevant. Think about how often you're driven by will without realizing it. You scroll endlessly. You through your phone because you're searching for stimulation. You overwork because you're addicted to achievement. You seek validation in likes, purchases, or relationships, but none of it lasts. The moment fades, the will awakens again, and you're back on the treadmill. Schopenhauer's solution. Don't keep feeding the will. Observe it, detach from it, and gradually dissolve its grip. We see echoes of this in Buddhist teachings, where liberation comes not from satisfying desire, but extinguishing it. It's also mirrored in modern minimalist movements, digital detoxes, and even neuroscience findings on dopamine fatigue. Here's how you can begin applying this. Practice voluntary simplicity. Start saying no to things that only serve short-term pleasure, not as punishment, but as empowerment. Notice how your mind reacts. Who's really in charge, you or your will? Embrace silence and stillness. In moments of craving, whether it's for attention, food, or distraction, pause. Sit with the discomfort without reacting. You're not suppressing the desire, you're witnessing it. That's the first step to dissolving it. Create rituals of non-doing. Set aside time not to consume, produce, or achieve, but simply to be. Nature walks, meditation, sitting alone without a phone. These are small acts of will denial that reconnect you to inner freedom. This isn't about rejecting life. It's about refusing to be enslaved by the endless hunger that defines so much of modern living. Schopenhauer's insight is timeless. True. Liberation doesn't come when you get what you want. It comes when you no longer need to get it. In a world that tells you to chase every impulse, denying the will isn't weakness, it's power. Third point, the denial of the will as liberation. At first glance, it may sound similar to the previous point. But here, Schopenhauer goes even deeper. This isn't just about refusing to chase every impulse. It's about something far more radical, the conscious renunciation of ego-driven desires, a path he called asceticism. To Schopenhauer, the highest wisdom isn't found in acquiring more, achieving more, or even becoming more. It's found in wanting less. Why? Because our ego, the part of us that constantly says, I want, I deserve, I need, is the root of suffering. And only when we quiet that voice can we discover true peace. This idea profoundly influenced not only Western philosophy, but also deeply resonates with Eastern traditions. In Buddhism, enlightenment begins when one extinguishes the fires of craving. In Stoicism, serenity is achieved not by changing the world, but by mastering one's desires. Schopenhauer echoes this truth. Freedom doesn't come from satisfying the will, but from transcending it. Now think about our modern culture. We're told to build a personal brand, chase our dreams, assert our identity, maximize our experiences. But this often leads to anxiety, burnout, and chronic dissatisfaction. We're always chasing, never arriving. Schopenhauer offers an antidote, a life not of constant striving, but of deep stillness. A life where the ego is not the master, but the illusion to be seen through. Here's how you can begin practicing this philosophy. Observe your ego in action. When you feel envy, anger, or pride, pause and ask, who is speaking here? What is this part of me trying to prove or protect? Awareness weakens the grip of ego. Adopt micro-ascetic practices. You don't need to live in a monastery. Start small. Skip a meal voluntarily. Walk instead of driving. Disconnect from social media for a day. These are acts of willful simplicity that train your inner strength. Redefine success as inner peace. Instead of chasing the next promotion or possession, ask yourself, what would it mean to be content? Real wisdom often looks like less, not more. One powerful example. Leonard Cohen, the famous singer-songwriter, voluntarily spent years living as a monk in a Zen monastery. Why? He had fame, wealth, influence, yet chose silence, simplicity, and spiritual discipline. He understood what Schopenhauer meant. To truly live, one must stop feeding the ego. This path isn't glamorous. It won't get you applause, but it will get you something much rarer, a quiet mind, a clear heart, and the kind of wisdom that can't be bought or taught, only lived. In Schopenhauer's words, and in the legacy of sages across time, we find the same invitation. If you want freedom, stop clinging. If you want peace, deny the ego's endless demands. Only then can true liberation begin. Fourth point, art as an escape from illusion for Schopenhauer. The world we live in, the one of constant striving, chasing, and suffering, is driven by the blind force he called the will. But what if, just for a moment, you could step outside of that force? What if there was a way to see the world not through the lens of desire, but through the lens of pure perception? That's where art comes in. In Schopenhauer's philosophy, art isn't just decoration or entertainment, it's salvation. When we engage with true art, especially music, we are no longer trapped in our ego, our cravings, or our personal narratives. We become witnesses, not participants. The will is suspended, and in that suspension, we experience something extraordinary: freedom. Take a moment. Remember the last time a piece of music moved you to tears, or when you stood before a painting and time seemed to stop, or when a film, a poem, or even a sunset took you completely out of yourself. In those moments, you weren't wanting, chasing, or calculating. You were simply present, fully alive in beauty, in truth, in something beyond words. That's the power of art for Schopenhauer. It doesn't just reflect reality, it lifts us above it, and science is beginning to back this up. Studies in neuroscience show that engaging with music and visual art activates areas of the brain associated with emotion regulation, empathy, and deep states of presence. Music, in particular, bypasses language and strikes directly at the emotional core. It can calm trauma, reduce pain, and even synchronize heartbeats among listeners. But Schopenhauer saw something even deeper. He believed that music is a direct expression of the will itself, not an imitation of the world, but a revelation of its underlying structure. That's why it touches us so profoundly. It speaks to what we are, not just what we see. So how do we use this in daily life? Don't treat art as background noise. Create intentional moments of immersion. Listen to music not while multitasking, but with full attention. Watch a film not to escape, but to see. Choose art that elevates, not numbs. We live in a time of endless content, but much of it is designed to distract, not uplift. Seek out works that challenge your mind, stir your soul, or awaken your sense of wonder. Make art even badly. Draw, write, dance, sing, not for praise or productivity, but for the joy of expression. In creating, you participate in the same process that frees you as a viewer, the transcendence of the will. In a world obsessed with utility, where everything must be useful, profitable, or optimized, Schopenhauer dares to say, beauty has its own purpose, and that purpose is liberation. To contemplate art is to remember that you are more than your struggles, more than your desires, more than your to-do list. It's a glimpse of eternity within time, a soft rebellion against the tyranny of always wanting. In that silence between notes, in that stillness before a masterpiece, you are free. Point. Recognizing the unity of all beings. If there's one idea from Schopenhauer that has the power To shatter your worldview and rebuild it on higher ground, it's this: we are not separate. The ego, the sense of I versus you, self versus other, is an illusion. Behind the mask of individuality, all beings are expressions of the same underlying will. What does this mean? It means the same force that moves you to seek meaning, love, and life is also moving through every animal, every tree, every stranger on the street. You are not a closed system. You are a thread in a single fabric, a wave in a vast ocean of being too. Schopenhauer, this recognition is not poetic fluff. It is the foundation of deep ethics, because when you realize that another's pain is not fundamentally separate from your own, compassion is no longer optional. It's inevitable. This isn't just philosophy. It's echoed in modern physics and ecology. Quantum entanglement challenges the idea of separateness. Systems thinking in biology shows how no organism thrives in isolation. Even your breath, exhaled CO2, feeds the trees that give you oxygen. In return, life is not competition, it is communion. And when we forget this, the consequences are everywhere. Environmental destruction driven by short-term greed. Exploitation of animals justified by convenience. Social inequality rooted in the belief that the other doesn't matter. Schopenhauer saw it all coming. He warned that egoism, the illusion of separateness, would lead to suffering, not only for others, but for ourselves. So how can we live this truth? Expand your circle of concern. When making decisions, what to eat, how to shop, how to treat others, ask, does this honor the unity of life? Small changes rooted in awareness ripple outward. Practice reverence, not domination. Approach nature, animals, and people not as resources, but as fellow manifestations of the same essence. The tree is not just wood. The animal is not just meat. The stranger is not just background. Reflect on your shared nature. Daily, remind yourself, this person suffers as I do. This creature wants to live as I do. Such simple truths dissolve the walls we build between me and them. One powerful modern example of this mindset is Dr. Jane Goodall. Her work with chimpanzees transformed how we understand animals, not as lesser beings, but as kin. She once said, "You cannot get through a single day without having an impact on the world around you. What you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make." That's Schopenhauer's legacy in action: to see through the illusion of the isolated self, to live with radical compassion, not out of duty, but out of awareness. Because when you hurt another, you hurt yourself. And when you care for another, you heal the whole. This isn't just the future of ethics, it's the ancient truth of existence waiting to be remembered. Schopenhauer's vision is not easy. It demands more than thought. It demands transformation. In a world addicted to distraction, ego and noise, he calls us inward. To feel deeper, to want less, to see beauty beyond utility, and to remember that we are not separate, we are one. These 5 ideas aren't just lessons, they are a path, a way out of mediocrity and into meaning. Because the real revolution doesn't begin out there. It begins in how you think, how you feel, how you see others, and that's exactly where Schopenhauer's genius speaks to us. In the quiet moments when we choose compassion over indifference, silence over chaos, unity over self. If this message moved you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Help others rise with you. Like this video if you believe the world needs deeper thinkers and kinder hearts. Subscribe if you want more than just content. You want clarity, purpose, and depth. And comment below which of these 5 ideas spoke to you the most and why. Every click, every share is not just support for this channel. It's a vote for a better kind of discourse. So, world where wisdom matters again. Thank you for walking this path with me. Now let's go live it.